Nigeria's school kidnapping have become a major security challenge for its government and security forces. At least 700 students have been abducted in Nigeria in the northern states since December 2021, and that figure is not changing every day, with reports of more attacks and abduction. Back in 2024, the armed group Boko Haram made a global headlines when it abducted more than 270 schoolgirls from the town of Chibok. Sadly, since then, Nigeria's kidnapping industry has been thriving against a dire economic background, a lack of jobs, easy access to guns, and the possibility of quick ransom payments makes it attractive to bandits and unemployed young men. In 2014, the terrorist group Boko Haram kidnapped 276 schoolgirls in Nigeria. It gave a rise to a viral Twitter movement, "Bring Back Our Girls," and would eventually inspire hundreds of similar kidnapping in the years that followed. Despite the release of some of the girls in 2016 and 2017, at least 100 remained captive. Boko Haram has effectively turned kidnapping into a lucrative business. Gangs of bandits, jihadists, and local politicians are involved. The kidnappers often now demand payment in foreign currency and cryptocurrency, making it look like an advancement in their business. You know, some of the kidnappers were barely teenagers, shooting rifles into the air, and they marched hundreds of hostages through a ton of forest to find cell phone service. They would soon relay a message to the man known as the negotiator, a corn farmer and a part-time newspaper reporter, who has become, over time, an unlikely go-between for families of the abducted and the kidnappers demanding payments. In the past, kidnapping victims tended to be the wealthy and the prominent. It's not like that anymore. They don't care if their victims are poor, rich, young, or old. And so kidnappers had every interest in keeping their victim alive. Not anymore. Now they don't care if the victims die in the process. The maximum ransom possible are being asked. In March 2020, for example, 2 Nigerian footballers were kidnapped and released soon after, though it is not clear if a ransom was paid. Furthermore, hours before a World Cup match in 2018, the captain of Nigeria's national football team learned that his father had been kidnapped. In December 2019, attackers attempted to assault and murder the manager of the shipping giant Maersk in Nigeria in his home. He survived his injuries, but his wife did not. Between 2011 and 2020, it is reported that over $18 million had been paid in ransom. This amount of ransom accelerated in the latter portion of the period between 2016 and 2020. Around 11 million was paid. It shows that kidnapping has spread from oil patch of the entire country, and that the army is now stationed in almost every Nigerian state, essentially to keep order, plagued by the weak internal security and economic crisis. Armed gangs across Nigeria have found a way to make money, abducting hundreds of students from poorly protected schools in the country. Northwest has brought in millions of dollars in ransom payments. Now, pressure is growing on local government to step up their security, beef up protection in the country's, school across board. Nigeria's president, the then president Muhammadu Buhari, criticized state governments for rewarding bandits with money and vehicles, warning that such policies could have and are disastrous consequences. Buhari, facing pressure from the country's inadequate strategy against terrorism and banditry, has urged by Parliament on April 27 to declare a state of emergency and address the escalating security crisis. Nigeria's government has leveled accusation against its neighbors, asserting that they pose a dual threat to the country's economy and security. The claim is that weapons and ammunition continue to flow across border, fueling the ever-growing conflict within Nigeria. True, but personally, if there were border controls to check all of this influx? Maybe or maybe not. The country has experienced 2 recessions in the last 4 years, and the issues were like youth unemployment, insecurity are worsening. Unfortunately, one notable growth industry is kidnapping, fueled by the influx of cheap guns into the country. Despite Nigeria's effort to close its border, the situation persists with sabotage, theft, and environmental concerns, leading into Shell to close its onshore Nigerian operations. Imagine that. Shell used to be like the giant oil marketer, refinery, and all of that stuff in Nigeria. These are foreign investors leaving the shores of Nigeria based on kidnapping. The governance failure in Nigeria extends beyond addressing issues like poverty and insecurity. It involves corruption, greed, and notably disconnection. A wise man once said that any insurgency that has, overlaps and across the board over 24 hours has the hands of government in it. I don't know. I read that somewhere. Between the government and the people, unfair policies and brutality characterize states, contributing to the criminalization of governance. This failure has given rise to communal militias and separatist movements, exemplified by Biafra in the southeast. Nigeria's social protection policies, including minimum wage and labor rights, are among the worst, neglecting the economic well-being of the majority. Approximately 7 million people are trapped in poverty, exacerbated by the pandemic and the recent religious crisis. In Nigeria, the prevalence of kidnapping has become distressingly common, leaving families with little choice but to negotiate, often involving the payment of ransom. Outrageous ransom for that matter. The security forces of the government appear to be struggling to effectively counter the challenges posed by kidnapping bandits. This criminal activity has transformed into a thriving industry as abductors once paid fines and incentives, learn to, communicate, prepare for the next operation, and the circle is unending. The circle of crime remains intact with no significant disruptions to the elements of the crime triangle. Motive means opportunity. This seems to be getting fueled. Victims have been taken. The families of the victims are searching for cash to pay for ransoms. So the motive being to make ends meet isn't being meant by the economic, but being meant in the business of kidnapping. They have the motive. They want to meet their own ends. The means is kidnapping. Victim families and everything, they are paying these ransoms and they remain in business. The growth of kidnappings has made normal life in Nigeria increasingly uncertain for all residents, all and sundry, both poor and rich. If you like this video, if you had enjoyed it, please give us a thumbs up, share your thoughts in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, thank you.